You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Hey, welcome everybody. We have some really big conservative banning news to cover. And we're going to cover Cohen and Manafort, and we're going to cover, what else are we going to cover, Doug? The Minnesota State Fair.
Ooh.
But first,
exciting.
Jokes. And we got a lot of them. We got a lot of jokes this time. I'm going to play the first one. Here we go.
I got some jokes for you. I hope this is recording. Okay, here's the first one. Did you hear about the guy that fell into the upholstery machine?
No.
Well, don't worry. He's fully recovered.
Ha ha ha.
Or maybe you heard about his brother who fell into the lens grinding machine. Yeah, he was kind of obnoxious, but he made a spectacle of himself.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I got another one for you. This guy doesn't know too much about sex, so he decides to go to a prostitute. It's kind of a...
Uh-oh. What happened here? I was hanging by a thread there. He decided to go to a prostitute and then...
Kind of a cheapskate, too.
Kind
So
of
you ask him,
cheapskate.
sir, what can I get for $1?
Oh my God.
And she kind of looks at him funny and says, $1? Well, I guess for $1, I'll let you put your toe in. So the guy spends a few minutes putting his toe in her.
Oh.
A week later, his toe is all painful and sore. It's throbbing. It's purple. It's really hurting bad. So he goes to the doctor. The doctor examines him. He says, well, this is kind of strange. He says, you have syphilis of the big toe. And the guy looks at the doctor and he says, what do you mean kind of strange? Isn't that like the strangest thing you've ever heard of? Syphilis of the big toe? And the guy says, you would have thought so. But this very morning, I saw a case of athlete's foot of the pussy.
Oh.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Is that even a joke? That's just gross. That's just like, how can we be gross? Ah.
By the way, it's not pussy or vagina anymore. You know that, right? You know, did you hear the new
Oh,
term?
right. It's front hole.
Front hole.
Front
right.
hole. And do boys not have a front hole? I think you have a front hole. It's just different, right?
It's called your nose or your mouth.
Right. Front hole.
I have a back hole.
We all have those.
Hey, Sonny.
We're all equal in the back hole.
A Frenchman and a German and a Polak are on an airplane flying over the Atlantic Ocean. And, that doesn't work, does it? Yeah, I have to.
Uh-oh. I think he has to call back. All right, here we go. We're getting another one.
Let's try it again. All right, Sonny, here we go.
All right.
So a German, a Frenchman, and a Polak are flying in a plane, and it's beginning to crash. And they look over, and there's only 2 parachutes. And so the Frenchman grabs the parachute and jumps out and screams, "Viva la France!" and opens the parachute and flies down. And there's one more parachute left, and so the German guy goes to the Polak. He says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shine a flashlight on the ground, and then you just climb down the beam. And the Polak goes, no, I know that one. Halfway down, you turn off the flashlight.
Stupid Polacks.
They're so dumb.
Remember those dumb Polak jokes? My God, my childhood was full of them. All right.
That's all I heard for like 10 years.
I know, right? Why did we hate on the Polacks so much?
I don't know. I don't know why the Polish were so stupid.
All right, here we go.
Hi, Sonny. Here's a joke. My wife told me that I didn't love any of her relatives. I told her, that's not true. I love your mother-in-law and father-in-law much more than I love mine. Bye.
Oh, he flipped it on her. Okay, I have a joke. This was sent to me via email. It's a pretty good one. I'm going to read it. 3 friends married women from different parts of the world. The first man married a Greek girl. He told her that she was to do the dishes and house cleaning. It took a couple of days, but on the 3rd day he came home to see a clean house and dishes washed and put away. The second man married a Thai. He gave his wife orders that she was to do all the cleaning, dishes, and the cooking. The first day he didn't see any results, but the next day he saw it was a little better, and by the 3rd day he saw his house was clean, the dishes were done, and there was a huge dinner on the table. The third man married a girl from Texas. He ordered her to keep the house clean, dishes washed, laundry washed, and hot meals on the table every meal. The first day he didn't see anything. The second day he didn't see anything either, but by the 3rd day some of the swelling had gone down and he could see a little out of his left eye, and his arm was healed enough that he could fix himself a sandwich and load the dishwasher. He still had some difficulty when he pees.
Those Texas women. They're not fucking around.
Nope, they're not. Not messing around. Okay, so
It's a good one.
yeah, so that we got a lot of that. Thanks for calling in your jokes, everybody. If you want to tell us a joke for next week, call the number 707-681-5834 and we'll play it because we play them all. And you might be able to hear in my voice I'm a little tired. I was at the state fair all day yesterday. The Minnesota State Fair. I'm in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
With my 4-year-old. And so we have an au pair too, and I took her, and she's like, so what is this when it's not the state fair? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, what is this place that we're at when it isn't a state fair? I'm like, it's just the state fair. Like, people don't get it. It's a town within St. Paul, Minnesota that's just for this 2 weeks.
So she thought, what? I don't get it.
You go in and there's all these permanent structures and it's this huge, huge area.
Yeah.
And it is literally like a little town. And she said, well, it can't just be for the state fair,
Oh, I see.
Because the state fair is just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is the state fairgrounds. This is it. And yeah, they do other piddly little things here. They use it for other stuff, but nothing even close to the 2 weeks where we do it up here in Minnesota.
One of the biggest state fairs in the country, I believe.
It is. I think there's a bigger one in Texas. And yeah, my 4-year-old was really excited to see the blue ribbon fattest pig.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah, we saw it. I mean, basically,
was it as advertised?
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of its ears is as big as her head. It's huge.
My God.
It's massive. And
awesome.
She got to hold a baby pig, and it's so much fun. We saw a horse show. We went on tons of rides. We ate a lot of junk.
Funnel cake.
What?
Funnel cake.
Mini donuts. A bucket of cookies. They sell a whole bucket of cookies. That's the most popular food stand at the Minnesota State Fair is the bucket of cookies.
It's very simple. Everybody's
walking around with a bucket. It's a huge bucket of cookies, and they're good cookies.
Is it just one size, or is there different, like 10-piece, 20-piece?
Honestly, they're not very uniform. I think they're sort of uniform. They look like homemade chocolate chip cookies.
Nice.
And they taste like that. They're really yummy. They don't taste, like with a lot of preservatives or whatever. They're making them fresh right there in the building, and they give you this huge bucket. They overflow the bucket. You can't even get the lid on. They make you feel like you're getting so much for your money,
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sounds delicious.
Yeah, we had a great time. And then I got pulled over by a cop for speeding on the way home.
Classic Minnesota. You can't have that much fun.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, these cops, they're out here. They know that everybody's just having a good time. We can't have that.
Right.
We got to ruin their day at the very last minute.
She was thinking a little bit too much of herself. She was a little too happy.
A little too happy.
Felt a little bit too good about her life. Got to bring her down to size.
That is so Minnesota. Oh, my God. That's exactly what happened.
They look for the people that have the most fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure. I'm thinking, what a dick. You got to feel bad about yourself. By the way, the speed limit was 30.
Come on.
Yeah. And it was like a highway. It was like a major intersection highway that runs into the freeway. It was like 3 lanes on one side, 3 lanes on the other. This wasn't like a single lane road or something, through a residential area. So the speed limit was 30. So I was going like 43 or 45 or something lame like that.
Come on.
And he pulls me over and, it's 9 p.m. I got my 4-year-old in the back. We've obviously just been to the state fair,
Yeah.
You got to feel like a dick.
Jesus. What a speed trap. So they're not making enough money from the fair.
Right.
They need their extra bonus money.
Yeah.
45 too. I mean, like someone wouldn't have been going 60.
Right.
That he could have caught, right?
Yeah.
God.
I haven't even looked to see how much it's going to cost me. I'm like, whatever. Can't even look. I'll look later.
Man.
Yeah. Thanks, St. Paul Police.
Well, they showed you.
Yeah, they showed me.
Your cookie bucket was probably a little bit too big.
I should have given him some cookies. I didn't even think about that. Would I've gotten arrested? Here, officer, have our bucket of cookies.
Yeah, you would have maybe you would have gotten off with a warning.
Right.
Maybe that's what he was looking for.
Maybe. And I'm so dumb. I'm just like,
I got to keep the cookies for myself.
Yeah. All right. We have a lot of banning news. I think we covered it last week. It was a pretty popular segment. People like their banning news. So really, really big news. David Horowitz's Freedom Center. This is a major conservative think tank,
I didn't even hear about this one.
Oh, banned from MasterCard and Visa.
Come on.
Not kidding. And he can no longer process credit cards. So he sent out a press release saying, I can't run credit cards anymore. So please, he's begging for checks because, but he's like, this could kill my foundation, could kill his center. He employs people. He runs, he's got a website that he runs. They do a lot of writing, a lot of journalistic investigation. And I mean, it's just kind of crazy. This is just unbelievable. Visa has come out saying that, basically like a prissy little no comment kind of. So we'll see where this leads. I can't imagine that's going to stand, but that did happen. And last week we had where MasterCard pressured Patreon to boot off Robert Spencer of Jihad Watch. So something's going on with the credit cards here.
Well, now keep in mind, Sonny, there's a movement afoot for the last couple of years to ban cash. And,
right.
This is one of the scariest aspects of that movement.
Yes, that's a really good tie-in, Doug.
You'll have a handful of companies controlling those processing payments. It's obviously what it is it's a method for the state and to control commerce completely.
Well, I was more worried about it as like, I don't necessarily want every transaction of mine tracked. I think that kind of creeps me out. Like if I want to pay cash, I want to pay cash. And, if in some dystopian future it gets even more necessary where you want to hide what you're doing because everything's illegal, then we should be able to use cash. So that's why I was against it. But now we're seeing, this is a really good point, if we do go totally electronic, now we have this thing where social, cultural pressure can actually shut you down as a business.
Remember the credits in Star Wars? Maybe they were ahead of portions. How many portions is this worth?
Yeah. So I want everybody to open their damn checkbook and write a check to David Horowitz Freedom Center this week, even if it's for $5. Let's send them some damn cash. I can't even believe that. And I would be surprised if it stands because that's pretty big news.
That can't be legal. I mean, I can't imagine that there's not a civil rights case there.
But here's the thing. It wasn't illegal for the IRS to target Tea Partiers, but they did it anyway, and they affected the 2012 election. So we all know what this is about. This is about the midterm election.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe it won't stand. Maybe in court, it wouldn't stand up in court. It seems kind of weird. David Horowitz is claiming this is because of the Southern Poverty Law Center's designation that he's a hate group or whateher, which
Oh my God.
has been already proven over and over that Ayaan Hirsi Ali, they just lost a lawsuit with Nawaz. Oh God, what the hell is his name? I can never remember these Arab names. I'm sorry. Does that make me racist?
Yeah. No.
Nawaz.
They all sound the same.
What's his name?
I heard that too. They lost that case. He was on Tucker, I think.
Yeah. So what's his name, dude? Majid Nawaz. He's a British guy. The Southern Poverty Law. I mean, he's a Muslim who is an activist for moderating their religion and for, he's anti-jihad but pro-Muslim.
Right. Can't have that.
Can't have that. He's obviously an Islamophobe, even though he's a Muslim. So they labeled him a hate group or hate speech or whatever, and he sued him and won $3 million. Now, SPLC is really, really well funded. They have like a $300 million offshore account or something like that. I hope all these people sue the shit out of them. And they're working with YouTube to decide what is fake news and what isn't fake news. I mean, this is what we're dealing with in the world today.
It's frightening.
It's really, really frightening. It's serious. It is not, it's a private business, whatever. We don't have to worry about this. This is fucking serious. He can't process credit cards, you guys. And I have more news. Facebook has shadow banned PragerU into complete silence.
Wow.
So their statement is, internal Facebook analytics reveal that as of Thursday, August 16th at 10 p.m., posts by PragerU on the social media platform have been completely invisible to its more than 3 million followers. Currently, visitors to PragerU's Facebook page are unable to see any of its posts.
You're kidding me.
No. And PragerU is in the process of suing YouTube for shadow banning their videos. These are there is nothing in any of these videos. There's no violent footage. There's no swearing. There isn't a single thing in any of these videos that you could point to and go, oh, well, we just really did. You could fake and say, oh, we don't really want that on our platform. These are the most milquetoast in terms of just their style. I don't want to say milquetoast. They're not milquetoast. They're, what do you say, civilized.
I'm on PragerU's Facebook page now, and it seems like there's content here. So I don't know what exactly they've banned.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But I guess they were showing, and I've seen other people post this stuff where they show that, they had these Facebook videos that were getting all these likes and views every day, and it's gone down to 0 for no obvious reason.
I've seen some of those.
So
it's obviously happening.
It's obviously happening, and then we have other things too, just milder banning, and I think this is almost worse because it's so hard to track, and it's so hard to really express the impact on this. But just as one example, an author in the New York Post wrote an article in the New York Post saying that at 7:55 a.m. Thursday morning, I posted a story I had written for the New York Post on Facebook and Twitter. It was a reported piece on how people who voted for Trump were feeling after both former Trump campaign manager and his lawyer found themselves on the wrong side of the law. Within hours, I started receiving a handful of notes from people who are friends of my personal Facebook page that when they post her piece, and the piece's title is Why Trump Supporters Won't Care About Cohen and Manafort, that they had shared this and then it had been removed. And the removal was accompanied by a message from Facebook saying spam being the most common reason. And a couple of people were told that Facebook removed the post because it didn't follow community standards. So now this morning I have read, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but I have read 5 different articles this week like that, where some author is just like, hey, my article, about Trump, it's not even really necessarily favorable. It's maybe just a conservative author doing some sort of journalistic reporting, and that's disappearing and being shadow banned or whatever, or being removed.
Right.
Just from glancing at the news this morning. So these are the small fry, just the authors, just the journalists, not David Horowitz, but, Joe Schmo, somebody like me, posting her podcast that 1,000 people a week listen to. We can't have that.
Well, George Soros is funded. Did you see the story that George Soros is funding Cortez?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And he funds the Young Turks.
Yeah, he funds the Young Turks. I saw that. So I haven't dived into this yet, but I came across an interesting article on USA Today, which linked to, apparently there has been a confidential memo that has come out from Media Matters, and we know Media Matters is the Soros-funded media watchdog group, and their explicit mission is to take down conservative voices, to silence conservatives in the media. And they apparently have this internal memo from 2017 detailing how social media platforms can collude to eliminate right-wing propaganda and fake news.
Wow.
So I'm going to read that, and maybe we'll get into that next week. But, this is not nothing. And I really am glad to see that Trump made a statement about this. He tweeted, speaking loudly and clearly for the Trump administration, "We won't let this happen. Censorship is a dangerous thing." He urged social media companies to let everybody participate, good and bad, and we will all just have to figure it out. Funny how that's the controversial view in America.
I don't think it is.
Hey, let's just all figure it out. I mean, let's get exposed to everything and figure it out. Do your homework.
Yeah, that's considered racist.
Right.
That's just your white privilege talking. That's why they needed this other. They couldn't just argue free speech is bad. They needed another philosophical plank, which is this idea of privilege and power, and this idea that logic and thinking methods are literally different, and so just by virtue of you talking is a kind of a form of violence or coercion, and so now they're putting all these planks are all coming together now as this giant, not even a trial balloon.
Yeah, right. That we're past those times.
Past the trial balloon. This is a real balloon, where.
Well, when you have banks banning people,
they've taken free speech and made that even a gray area somehow.
And let's just remember what free speech is. It's not a legal value. Like, that's not its primary thing. It is a cultural value of the United States. So yeah, it's written into our Constitution, and we said, we have these inalienable rights, but we also have, protected right of free speech. But it's also an American value. So it's absolutely immoral to control the information that individuals have access to and can get. It's absolutely immoral to do that in a biased way like this, in a mass way. I mean, if you're the New York Times, you get to print what you want to print, but that's not what these companies are. They're not. And by the way, I hold the New York Times accountable too. I think they're immoral for supporting communism and for trying to convince Americans that freedom is bad.
They're liars.
And they're liars, yeah, in terms of the news. And they pretend like they're legitimate news, but they know that they're biased.
Correct.
In a severely biased way.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is it's one thing to be an opinion provider, whether you're a news station or whatever else, as long as you disclose that. I mean, no one has the right to force someone else to carry their views. But if you're a neutral platform and you advertise yourself as a neutral platform and you rely on your categorization as a neutral platform, legally and financially and as a business matter, and to contract with other content providers, to then completely and overtly not do that and do the exact opposite is evil.
It's evil. It's probably illegal, actually. But I think fundamentally what I'm trying to say is the American value of free speech, that's what we've lost here. We've lost it.
Yeah.
And culturally, the cultural norm is that it's okay to silence voices you don't like, to harass, and the fact that a conservative comedian can't book a venue to have a comedy show in advance without Antifa or some similar group calling the venue and threatening to shut it down, and the venue then cancels the show because what are they supposed to do? And the cops aren't protecting them because in the major cities the mayors are all Dems. So we have a situation actually where I think, we're actually being forcefully silenced. The government is putting pressure on the social media company. And by the government, I don't mean Trump. I mean the Democrats. They're putting pressure on the social media companies to silence conservative voices. They have the culture behind them. They have the mainstream media. They have the universities, the kids, and they have all these little harassment groups that they can call up and say, go harass this venue.
I think you're making the most important point, which is forget about all the legal arguments and forget even about the First Amendment. Just think about this morally and sort of, ethically, which is that these people believe that it's okay to silence critics, as you said. I was brought up and always believed, just logically, you need to be able to, you need freedom in order to live properly.
Right.
You need to be able to, this is a requirement of life.
Well, and this is objective, our objectivist philosophy coming in here too, that, in order to live a life that's proper to a human being, you need freedom.
You need to be able to hear other people, and you need to be able to express your own thoughts. And what these people have taken to philosophically, and it's just coming out in different ways, which is almost irrelevant how it comes out. But the way it's coming, their belief is, no, we need to stop people from talking. We need to shut down our critics, which is, of course, step one of every dictator and every socialist regime throughout history is, stop people from thinking. We need to, it's a system of violence.
Yeah.
To get people to act against their own interest. And so they believe, and for whatever reason, and there's many given, whether it's, the white privilege argument, or it's, speech is a form of violence, or, conservatives, are literally hurt you by talking, whatever the academic justification du jour is, the idea is that freedom is not a value. Freedom of speech is not a value. And in fact, they have every right, and it's necessary for them to shut down their critics as sort of a matter of, it's an existential crisis for them. If conservatives or right-wing people talk, it's going to destroy them. It's going to hurt them. It's going to destroy their lives in some way. So they need to immediately take action to shout these people down, to bully them, to burn down universities if a conservative gets to talk.
Right.
And so this philosophy, they don't care how they do it. I mean, whether it's using Facebook or the big tech companies, or using the law, which they'd love to use. They just know that right now
they can't really use the law, so they're doing it in every other way. I mean, I don't give a shit that it's being done legally. It's still, it's just wrong. It's evil. It's vicious, and it must be opposed.
Exactly.
And don't tell me, start my own social media company. Oh my God, you libertarians! Really?
Oh well, what's interesting?
I guess I'll start my own bank too, so that I can be sure to take donations, so that I can actually function as a conservative commentator.
Well, there was a startup, YouTube startup over the weekend. I think it was called Free Starter or something like that, the free speech answer to Patreon, they were shuttered over the weekend by Stripe, the payment processing company. So the point is that let's say you do rise to compete with one of the big tech media companies. Well, like you're saying, what if MasterCard and Visa now deny you payment processing? So you're supposed to start your own banking system?
Right. Good luck.
Good luck with that. You know,
I mean, we're supposed
at what point are you going to get a visit from Wesley Mauch, you know, from the government saying, hey, that's a nice little tech startup you got there.
Right.
Be a shame if anything
I guess
were to happen to you.
That's just it. That's exactly where they would go. If they couldn't stop us this way, they'll go that way. And they are going that way. They've already got violent thugs on the street. They're already doing that. They're intimidating businesses into not doing business with conservatives.
Exactly, which is our point, which is that this is not, you know, don't be a libertarian and just think of this in terms of legal, you know, the private versus government. This is an ethical issue here, and it's going to manifest in whatever way they can use to get power and to silence their critics. Like you said, if it's Facebook, if it's big tech, if it's payment processing companies and boycotts, and, you know, Antifa bullying people in the streets or kicking people out of restaurants, at some point that is going to make its way into law. And there is already, you know, this is already happening all over the world. I mean, the United States is probably the last country with some clear separation, at least, or some clear legal support for free speech. But how long is that going to last when it's regulated out of existence by these agencies?
If hate speech is violence, it won't last long. But, you know, we're being conditioned here to accept censorship socially first. And then when it happens politically, it'll just be the afterthought. It's not, it's going to be, nothing's going to happen because it's over at that point. We won't be able to speak already to say, hey, no, you can't. Legally censoring us is wrong. We won't even have a fucking platform at that point.
Exactly. Where you speak out against
what are you going to do? Get a goddamn box in the public square with a bullhorn?
Then the box company will shut you down.
Well, then Antifa will show up and beat you up. You know? I mean, we've got roving bands of violent people harassing and shutting down conservative. Don't wear a Trump hat to a goddamn restaurant. Even if you're a kid, some guy's going to rip it off your head and throw a drink in your face. Mm-hmm. That's the world that we live in right now. It must be opposed. I'm so sick of the mamby-pamby. It's legal. It's perfectly legal for Facebook to shadow ban PragerU. Get on.
Oh, it drives me crazy.
I mean, this is serious, and I'm to the point now where, like, okay, I don't even really know what can be done, because this is a train heading to civil war like nothing else. I mean, these people aren't open to reason.
No.
I would love it if we could
really think they're going to stop at. They're going to say, well, you know, these are private. You know, we can't really put these programs into law because that would be violating the separation between private business and the government. Of course, they're trying to get they would give anything to just have a law.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Perfect. You're not allowed to speak because you're conservative. I'm calling the cops.
And I think now, you know, when you look back at the '60s movement, this so-called free speech movement in the '60s. That wasn't about free speech. That was just because at that time, the left was culturally unpopular.
Right.
Communism was unpopular.
Right.
So at that point, they knew they needed some sort of moral high ground to push their political agenda, which was communism. And so at that time, they said, hey, let's use free speech against them. You know,
we'll use their values against them. Right.
But they didn't care about free speech. I mean, the first time now that they get power, they're going to shut down free speech.
Yeah. And so let's talk about power for a second, and we'll segue into this other issue with Cohen and Manafort, because my mom's a Dem. And she's like, well, you guys have a power. You have the presidency and you have the Congress. And I'm like, yeah. And people who work in the Trump administration are getting arrested right and left. Somebody's arresting people who work for Trump. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that can be done about it. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton, who wiped her server, like talk about obvious and direct obstruction of justice, is not even being investigated. No. And then you have all this evidence of this Steele dossier and all this literal collusion with Russia, which I don't even know if that's illegal. Like you buy information from Russia before an election to hopefully discredit the other candidate. I don't even think that should be illegal. I don't see what the big deal is. But like if it is illegal, if that's what we're looking for on the Trump side, why aren't we going after the people who clearly did it on the Dem side?
Of course.
Like, give me a goddamn break. We're not looking for Russian collusion. It's right in front of their fucking faces.
Exactly. No, they want to take down Trump.
They just want to take down Trump.
With Russian, for God's sake, Russian collusion.
And they have the power to do it because they're arresting people. They've arrested, like Flynn. Let's not forget about Flynn.
Right.
They wiretapped Carter Page. They arrested Flynn for obstruction because he was railroaded in an interview and didn't get his facts totally straight or something like that. So now his life is ruined. Manafort's life is ruined. Not even for anything he did during the campaign or anything like for something he did 10 years ago with some, I don't fucking know, some tax evasion scheme or whatever.
Right. 2005 financial crime.
From over 10. If you pull up any Democrat, they're going to have those types of crimes in their background. No question. All those people are doing the same tax evasion strategies.
No, the crime was supporting Trump. They're just squeezing his friends and associates.
That's right. So that's what we're watching. We're watching the law being applied only against people who support Trump. And so who's going to, like, if somebody offered me a job today to work in the Trump administration, I'd turn it fucking down. I don't want my life ruined.
Right. Yeah, it's a clear message.
I'm not going to prison. I'm not going to be kicked out of every restaurant I go into from now on for the rest of my life. I don't want my daughter subjected to that shit. Why would I work for Trump? Why would anybody work for Trump? That's what they're doing to us. So we don't have power. We don't have any power.
Well, I think it's time for Trump to start using power, and I think you're going to see a very difficult year ahead of us.
Now, does that scare you just saying that? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think he should fire Sessions. I think if he had a real attorney general that could get some control of the Justice Department and start going after these crimes on the other side, I think he could really shift the narrative. So, I think there's steps that could be taken. I think he has to get rid of Sessions. I think he needs to start firing everybody and I think he needs to start playing hardball.
We need to start arresting and prosecuting these rogue, fire stroke. Fucking arrest that fucker.
Yeah. They need to be arrested. There needs to be a grand jury and panel.
And
like
Hillary
today.
Needs to be arrested. I want the law applied.
It's a two-tiered justice system right now, a total flagrant double standard.
Flagrant. And we're supposed to sit here and pretend like we don't notice?
Yeah, the biggest mistake for him was putting Jeff Sessions. The Attorney General is probably could be the most, given what the left's trying to do to Trump. In hindsight, the Attorney General position was probably the most important position. And Jeff Sessions is MIA.
Yeah, he gave it to a political guy. He gave it to somebody for political reasons rather than is this guy going to be a good Attorney General?
Right. So he needs a Rudy Giuliani, Joseph DeGenova type who's going to just start kicking ass and just start a special counsel investigation. Yeah, we need to what happened in 2016.
We supposedly have the reins of power. Let's goddamn use them. And I don't mean to do things illegal. I mean, let's apply the goddamn law.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. It's just, I'm not asking for.
And by the way, if the mayor of Portland isn't going to fucking enforce the law and protect the speech of the people who live in their city, then Trump needs to send fucking troops in there. That's what I really want to see. I don't care if that scares people and sounds authoritarian. I don't think Trump's an authoritarian. I don't see any evidence of that. I don't know, a few words or whatever. I don't think if the conservatives start standing up and saying, you will enforce the law, you will protect freedom of speech, that is somehow going to lead to, internment camps for Democrats.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Let's get real here, everybody. The only people who are authoritarians right now, really, truly, are on the left. And if we have to, we can fight the right later. If an authoritarian branch, which I'm sure exists, which I would call the establishment more than anything else, crops up on the right, we can fight them. But right now, we have the left is silencing us.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I'm not calling for.
Well, what was the point of the Civil War was a bunch of states said, we're not going to follow federal law. And, at some point, if states are going to thumb their nose at the federal government illegitimately, then the feds need to step in.
States are violating our First and Second Amendment right and left in this country. And I don't mean the states so much as usually it's these blue cities that don't support gun rights and speech rights. And they're not protecting, a comedy venue to have a show. They get threats or whatever. Nothing's done about it. And maybe that's the FBI. I don't know. Maybe the FBI needs to start going after these Antifa thugs for threatening venues, for having conservative speakers and comedians and stuff. It's not just comedy clubs. It's,
it's everything.
It's right. Venues for speakers and if you own a venue, you had better be careful who speaks there these days, because you're going to have protesters, you're going to have vandalism, you're going to have violence against your venue, and why would you want to deal with that? I wouldn't want to deal with that. Are we really requiring 100% of Americans to have the moral and philosophic integrity to risk their property and their families? Or can the government just step in and rein in these goddamn Antifa thugs?
And I think it's sort of like the broken window situation that Giuliani's philosophy in New York, where, one broken window, one little thing of graffiti, they took care of all the little things and they prosecuted the little things, and that stopped the big things from happening. In other words, instead of saying, if someone breaks a window or if, someone pisses on the street or what, no big deal, let's just focus on the big crimes. They did everything the opposite.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for us and the federal government to start saying, we're not going to allow the little things. We're not going to allow one shout down.
Right.
We're not going to allow
not one shout down. And if you're a university, especially, if you take federal dollars, you do not get to allow one shout down. You don't.
That's right. One shout down,
and no more federal funds.
Where they stop a peaceful assembly from occurring, where some group wants to have a march or have a rally somewhere and they have every right to. That needs to be enforced by the Department of Justice. If they have to send in the FBI or federal agents to protect them, then they have to do that.
That's right.
Just like in the civil rights movement. During the 60s. Right. It's the same principle.
They sent the government down there to protect the people walking to school, because the assholes in the South wouldn't let the black people go to school.
Right.
Those are stirring images that we all admire that we did that, And we need the same thing now to protect Republicans and conservative voices.
But that has to start philosophically and ethically, where there's, we have to have a clear philosophy and someone who can articulate that, and then a zero tolerance policy anywhere for people that are going to violate the First and Second Amendment and people's right to assemble and businesses' right to these people that are going into businesses, and we're shouting down speakers in federally funded campuses, for God's sake.
And social media just because it happens on social media doesn't mean it isn't harassment. If you start a harassment campaign against a business for allowing a conservative speaker, you should be taken out. And I don't mean shot. I mean, like, let's arrest that person for harassment.
Yeah, harassment is harassment.
That's a crime.
Physically intimidate someone. That's a crime.
This needs to be stopped. This is so serious. And if we don't stop it, we will be in a civil war. That's where this is headed. So, I mean, it's like we either can stop it now, and you're right, it has to start with like taking the moral high ground. And I think Trump could go a long way to doing that by just, like you said, getting a little tough, getting a new attorney general. Congress could pass a law saying if a university doesn't protect freedom of speech, that they lose federal funding, that they can't take financial aid anymore.
Yep. Oh, there's all sorts of things you could do.
That would be easy,
Just zero tolerance for these kind of civil liberty violations.
Yeah.
Because the people traditionally that stood up for civil liberties, like the ACLU and stuff, of course, they're on the left too. So, they're not going to do anything. And, it's time.
Yeah, it's time. It's time.
Unfortunately, now they have Trump on the defensive, and I'm pretty nervous not because I think he's done anything wrong. I just think that the deep state and their vassals in the media are, they're in civil war mode. They're in war mode.
They really are.
Doing everything they possibly can.
I don't want that.
Republicans are a bunch of pussies.
Oh, yeah. And then I read this. So I read this article by Robert Trzynski, who's an objectivist. I think he's a thoughtful objectivist. I like reading what he writes. He writes in The Federalist. He writes in Real Clear Politics. And he wrote this article saying, basically like, we have to be civil. And I just feel like there's this false dichotomy that there's civility and then there's this sort of aggression that's stupid. There's either smart civility or stupid aggression. And I just don't think that that's right. I think that you can be persuasive and have the right ideas and be reasonable and rational and also be aggressive and not morally compromising. And if that manifests itself in mocking and humor, and that's kind of what he was putting down, was like the online trolling and fighting that happens, I think it's fine. I think some of that,
absolutely.
I think it's fine. I think there's no coincidence that the walk away movement happened after the right started standing up for itself. Nobody wants to join the loser nerd table in the cafeteria.
So did he oppose tar and feathering then at the founding?
Well, he didn't mention that, but I think that's a pretty good example. Yeah, it's a little distasteful, but we're talking about fighting for freedom. We're talking about fighting for freedom. We're not the communists. We're not the guys trying to fight for taking away other people's freedom. We're trying to fight for freedom. We're fighting against little pissants who want to take away our freedom.
Yeah.
So
civility's not working.
No, it didn't work. It's not working. And I'm fine with, I like that we have the ideas on our side. I like that we're persuasive, but we're only persuading ourselves at this point. We don't actually make an impact on the left. And if we don't do something, it really will be war. They are creating those conditions, and they're really dividing us with open immigration and creating cultural divides within this country. I don't know.
No, I totally agree with you. I think the time is...
So a lot of bad signs out there right now.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where, now this is essentially a coup. I mean, this is a deep state coup against an outsider. And there's a good article, I think you referenced it before, by, it was in the New York Post, the Selena Zito, who was essentially saying that, Trump didn't cause this sort of like populist coalition, that he is the result of it, in essence, that people are so sick and we're so sick of the federal government, their incompetence, the bloated bureaucracy, our foreign policy.
We're so
and
sick of taking the moral low ground.
That, it was sort of like anyone who's different, anyone who will just fight back against this, any kind of outsider.
Yeah.
And I even think that's why Bernie was popular on the left. He was sort of their left-wing Trump, just someone who, not that he was really outside the Beltway, but he's been in Congress his entire life. But anyways, he's seen as different. And this sort of like civil middle ground, it's like people are saying, screw that. And so, the taking Trump out is not just, you're not just taking out this guy maybe some people don't like. She said, quote, handing the keys to Washington back over to the people inside Washington, unquote. So in other words, like this is not the Democrats against Trump. This is the establishment. This is the people that profit from the largesse of the federal government, from the $4 trillion and the $21 trillion of debt and the trillions of dollars that flow into Washington that get doled out to lobbyists and their constituencies and the pressure groups, and this way of doing business in Washington that enriches this class of people. And, here's this guy who just sort of was sticking his thumb in the eye of this system. And this is what happens. This is the kind of pushback you see. I don't think we should just see this as it's certainly a leftist, flavor, no doubt about it. But there's even pushback and hatred of Trump by just the regular Washington establishment. And that's really what's going on here. They just want to get, anyone that threatens that system is going to have this kind of pushback. And I think
we have that issue, but then we also have just the general cultural push toward socialism and authoritarianism.
Right.
So
it's a scary combination.
Yeah. We're in trouble, guys. I think everybody's got to open up their checkbook and send cash to David Horowitz. I mean, we really have, like, if you got your day job and you're working and you don't want to, you can't go risk everything and do everything, but you really have to provide moral support to the people who are risking everything, and we need to start calling for, I don't know why, somehow we've gotten to this place where your example of sending the troops south to help little kids go to school, little black kids go to school without, being harmed, is somehow we're in this place where the left has convinced us that if Trump sent troops in to protect the free speech of people on Berkeley campus, say, that would somehow be immoral. That would be scary and authoritarian.
Right. Exactly.
But back then, that was regarded as like those soldiers were heroic. There's a damn Norman Rockwell painting that's, the famous one with the little black girl and the soldier next to her.
Right. This is why this is all first about the moral high ground.
Yes.
Because the left sees that, and they're, if the federal government actually enforces the Bill of Rights, it's seen as some sort of Nazi tactic. They flip the script.
It's like the wall. Oh my God, a wall is necessarily a East German thing. A wall is not. A wall has no intrinsic value one way or the other. It's who's using it and what for.
Right.
So sending soldiers into a city or a Berkeley campus has no intrinsic good or bad. It's what is it for and who is it protecting?
Exactly.
And we need to start saying, like, the federal government needs to protect us. And there's clearly a large, well-funded effort to shut us up in every way possible on every social media platform, credit cards now. I mean, come on. So
right. It's like the Chinese system, the social credit scores. I mean, that's coming here, especially if we go cashless, because that'll be, that'll be, imagine if everything you do is conducted online and the left has total control over that and there's no cash.
Right.
So you get a score based on your activity and whether you're a good little robot, good little leftist robot or not.
The left is so good at making everything kind of morally murky. Like now that they've said that hate is intrinsically bad,
Hate. Yeah. Hate's necessary to life. I mean, I hate cancer.
Right. I mean, hate it doesn't say anything morally about anything.
No, it's necessary. I mean, to be moral, you need to hate. I hate serial killers.
Right. But so they've done that to us, But meanwhile, their Antifa can run around hating hate and punching haters. I mean, you guys, we have to start standing up to this shit. It's so silly. How did we ever let it go to these idiots?
And I almost think that this mealy-mouthed libertarian, it's private business nonsense is just a rationalization for people not to do anything.
Maybe.
I don't know what that is. I think it's like such a pussy take.
Yeah, I do too.
To not see this as right and wrong.
Right.
That there's bad guys
yes.
and there's good guys.
It's right and it's wrong. That's what we're dealing with. Take a fucking stand. I got really irritated. Obviously, I'm in objectivist circles and libertarian circles. I got super irritated. I think I posted something like, this Alex Jones thing, the banning of Alex Jones, this is wrong and must be opposed. Like, that's all I said. I didn't say, there ought to be a law or the government should force it. I didn't say anything like that. I just said it's wrong. Like, it's morally wrong. And the comment I got is...
Let me guess. They have a right because it's a private business.
Right. Right. And I've said it before, but it reminds me of how, like, there's, 50 people are slaughtered in a nightclub by a Muslim. And the first thing the Muslims say is how worried they are about Islamophobia that hasn't happened.
Now, not all Muslims.
Yeah. It's like, that's the first thing you're going to say to me? You're going to worry about some non-event, some prejudice that hasn't occurred before you say, wow, 50 people were slaughtered. That's pretty fucking horrible. And I'm sad that they've done that in the name of the religion that I subscribe to. Maybe I should speak out against these violent people.
Yeah, but there was no prejudice when the guy was pulling the trigger, gunning down innocent people. That's not prejudice, but we're worried about the prejudice that may occur as a result of people witnessing
this hasn't
incident.
Occurred. Yeah, it's the same thing. So it's like, hey, this is wrong, this is immoral. They can do whatever they want. I didn't, like, what? What does that have to do with it?
Exactly. The first instinct should be, this is wrong.
This is wrong.
How do we fight it?
Right.
This is
how do we fight
step
it?
Towards authoritarianism. And the means they're using to implement this, that's important tactically. But the moral issue is the moral issue. If these so-called neutral platforms and are trying to silence anyone they disagree with, and the left is behind it, then we've got to fight it. We've got to stand up and say this is wrong.
And we can fight it with the law, too. I think that our freedom of speech needs to be enforced, particularly against... I actually think one of the worst things going on is that these harassers and violent groups are getting away with it. I think that was sort of the start of... if you're a business now and Antifa threatens your business, you actually have to take that seriously.
Yeah,
And so I really do think legally if it's like you said with Giuliani's broken window thing or graffiti thing, if we really were going after the people who are committing violence and harassment and actually making it impossible for people to make free choices to support or not, just to be neutral and to have speakers from everywhere, then things wouldn't be as bad as they are, and you wouldn't have the social media companies banning conservatives. But we've gotten to that point now where that's okay, because for the last couple of years, you can't have a Trump rally without violence happening. You can't be a comedian you can't be a right-sided comedian in a comedy venue. So they have succeeded in actually physically shutting us down. And so, yeah, there's a lot we can do. And I hope Trump does fire sessions and get tough.
Isn't it amazing, though, the psychological conditioning? Because when you see these images of these people burning down a campus because a conservative speaker is coming or shouting down, I mean, what is, with no pushback, with no one on the other side other than the speaker saying, please leave,
right,
to no avail, the conditioning that takes place is, wow, this conservative, they're dangerous, they're wrong, these people are fighting back. These people are idealistic. You know, they're really trying to fight for something.
Right.
And, you know, even if you don't, you know, in other words, if you're not a clear thinker, this is the kind of message that it's sending. And, you know, if I were in charge, I would stop anytime something like that happened, I would immediately say, get the cops in there, get all these people out of there.
Right.
This is a private venue. Arrest these people if they're going to shout someone down.
Arrest all of them. I don't care if it's 300. You know, take them down. This is absolutely has to stop. This is a total, the American value of freedom of speech is gone. We have to get it back. It's gone. You cannot be a conservative comedian anymore.
No.
So you can't be David Horowitz and have a perfectly reputable, respectable organization and run credit cards. This is wrong. So anyway, can you believe we've been talking for an hour? It's already been an hour. That's what happens when we get all worked up about stuff.
Right.
That's it for our show today. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the jokes at the beginning because it got pretty serious there toward the middle and the end. If you would like to support us, you can go over to Patreon while we're still on there and donate. Become one of our elite squad. That's how we support this show. And you can also go over to my YouTube channel, House of Sunny, and you can follow me on Facebook. It's Sunny Lohman. Right now, there's nowhere else for me to go. And I actually don't want us to be pushed into conservative ghettos. So I'm gonna stick it out on these platforms. That
sounds kind of cool. Like, I wonder what would that be like?
To be in a conservative ghetto?
Yeah. So
uncool and miserable. I don't know. Eventually, I suppose we'll end up there. I don't know, but
we read Ann Coulter books and sit around a fire.
Kumbaya.
With gun. Yeah, we clean our guns.
Clean our guns together.
And listen to Ann Coulter lectures. Okay.
Live stream cleaning our guns. Hey, anybody with a Glock 9mm, let's meet up at 5:00 on Saturday.
That might not be so bad. But at least the conservative chicks are usually pretty hot, so I could probably.
You know, it's true.
Let all the gross, fat, disgusting, horrible, like liberal chicks, they can go. We'll put them out on the West Coast somewhere.
Yeah, but if we get pushed in a ghetto, they're out in the world still. Why don't we just push them into a ghetto? the pink and blue hair ghetto.
Yeah, wear pussy hats.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the House of Sunny podcast. Go check out Sunny on YouTube at her channel, House of Sunny. Everything Sunny does is fan-funded, and because she's likely to get kicked off and demonetized on every platform at some point, please support her over at patreon.com/House of Sunny. Become one of Sunny's elite squad and have access to behind-the-scenes footage, t-shirts, special events, and more.